From WNDU TV, this is 16 News Now.
Irish fans have been up since the break of dawn. The chilly weather isn't keeping them from getting fired up on the Notre Dame campus. They are ready for yet another visit from rival USC Southern Cal, the biggest game on this year's home schedule. And we take you now live inside of Notre Dame Stadium, the calm before the storm, where in about 90 minutes, tens of thousands will pack the seats, hoping to see their Irish send the Trojans back to Southern California with a biting loss. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Catanzaro. We are live for the next 90 minutes, leading you up to the game right here on Channel 16. And we have team coverage to get you ready. We start with Sports Director Mark Skoll Jr. and WHME Sports Director Chuck Freeby live on the field at the stadium. Good evening, guys. How's it going?
Great, Maria. Tonight we get to witness one of the greatest rivalries in college football. It's Notre Dame and USC.
It's a rivalry that has seen a lot of streaks over the years. Before the Brian Kelly era, USC won 8 games in a row against the Domers. And since Kelly's arrival in South Bend, Notre Dame is 6-3 against the Trojans. USC head coach Clay Helton is coaching in this rivalry for the 4th time, and his only victory came back in 2016 when USC took down Notre Dame 45-27 in Los Angeles. This week, both Kelly and Helton gave their teams a lesson on this historic rivalry and what makes it one of college football's best.
If and when you come out with a win, that's something that you'll remember forever, and the older guys express that too, to our younger guys. So they understand it. They understand it, and it's something that I think you talk about as a coaching staff, as a head coach. You don't shy away from it, that it's just not another game. It's a special game, and it's a special place in history.
Great players that have played in it, great coaches that have coached in it, nationally televised. And so I just think the history, the tradition being played every year, it's one of those rivalries that hasn't gone away, and it's part of college football.
It's not just a part of college football, it's a huge part of the history of the game.
And for members of both the Fighting Irish and the Trojans, that is one of the big reasons why they decided to attend their respective schools. Notre Dame and USC always calls for a packed environment. It has led to some of college football's biggest moments. And both the Trojans and the Irish want to be part of the next big moment as players from both sides are ready for the 91st installment of Notre Dame and USC.
Obviously, the tradition is a big deal. It's one of the best rivalries in all sports. So it's just a great tradition between two great programs.
Some of the GAs talked to me about it's a really good atmosphere and a fun experience, and I look forward to going there.
A great rivalry. Everyone's amped up for this week, obviously, but I think just coming from two schools with a lot of tradition, a lot of heart, a lot of passion, and coming to a school like this gives you even more pride. So obviously when we get on the field, it's a lot of bad blood, but it's fun out there, and it's a rivalry you got to enjoy.
Now, one of those players who's had plenty of experience in the rivalry is none other than Chris Fink.
Tonight will be Fink's 5th time repping the blue and gold in the rivalry. We go to 16 News Now's Megan Smedley at the top of Notre Dame Stadium now for why Fink is frustrated heading into today. Megan.
Mark, Chris Fink isn't just frustrated heading in today. He's been frustrated all season long, but he hopes tonight he can change that. 5 games into the 2019 campaign, Fink has just 10 catches and a touchdown. That's far short of last year's pace when he finished with 49 receptions. Fink hopes that this trend doesn't continue, and he thinks that with more offensive weapons returning, he too can return to his game. But as a former walk-on turned captain, Fink knows all about fighting to prove himself.
I've had some disappointments, some personal disappointments. I think that's probably obvious if you've watched. But it's my last season here, so no time to really think about that in terms of dwelling on it, more so just learning on it. Well, I've always had expectations for myself, no matter what anybody else has set for me. But obviously it's frustrating when you don't meet your own expectations. And like I said, just getting through it is just realizing how lucky I am to be here and playing football, and how much I love my teammates and my coaches, and just playing for this university, and just keeping that in the back of my mind.
And Fink hopes that today could be his breakout game, and if history is on his side, it very well could be. Last season against the Trojans, Fink recorded his career high with 7 catches. Maria, I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Megan Smedley live from Notre Dame Stadium tonight. Megan, thank you very much. Well, fans are traveling from all over to be at the annual clash between Notre Dame and USC. Now, this year is no exception, with fans gathering outside the stadium to enjoy some pre-game fun. Both Trojans and Irish fans were enjoying some good food and good company ahead of the showdown on the field tonight. That's where these fans say they made their favorite Notre Dame USC memories.
It's either the Bush Push of 2005 or the 55-24 Anthony Davis game where we scored 6 touchdowns.
I've been to a lot, probably about 30. I lived in LA for 20 years and we went every year.
That fan says he's been grilling at that tailgate spot for 5 years now, and we'll head back to the stadium for more Notre Dame USC coverage in a few minutes. From just over an hour away from Notre Dame and USC for the 91st time, let's send things back to Mark and Chuck at the stadium. And guys, I understand you have a special guest who knows this rivalry pretty well, right?
That's right, Maria. With us now, the voice of the USC Trojans since 1989, Pete Arbogast.
Pete, we really appreciate your time being with us. And before we start talking football, I want to just let our viewers know we've got both good guys on both sides of this rivalry. You volunteered for Providence St. John's. No one dies alone. You spend time with people in their dying hours before the family arrives. How'd you get involved in that?
Well, the hospital put out an ad in the local paper in Santa Monica, California, where I was working at the YMCA at the time. I just retired from that job just a year ago. And it described the program, and I thought that's a good fit for me. I can do something like that. They deal in giving care to the indigent community or those who are from maybe foreign countries that don't have anybody to work with, there's no family around, or they're just really, really old and there's nobody to take care of them. And they're, like you said, they're in their dying moments. And when I saw that ad, I said, I can go do that.
What a noble thing.
Pete, you're also very active in youth sports in Southern California. What motivates you to be so involved?
Well, I love the coaches and the camp counselors and directors that I had when I was a kid, always with the YMCA. And I grew up in that program in Hollywood, and I got out of that program as a kid, and I became a counselor myself. And then the natural progression of things is to become a coach or a league director or a camp director. And I still did all of that until last year. I still go to mountain camp 2 weeks a year. Up in Big Bear, up in the mountains of Southern California as a director. They call me Pops. You know, that's what happens when you get gray hair. But I love that. That's as good a job as any job you can get, because you're dealing with kids and you're trying to lead them to be better adults and better human beings. And I think that's we need more of that in the world.
Now to the meat and potatoes of why you're here. You've been the voice of the Trojans for 30 years. What are some of your favorite memories of this rivalry?
Well, first of all, as opposed to, say, for instance, our other rivalry, SC-UCLA, which is in the same town, and you have to live with those people daily, and sometimes they're in your house with you. This is not like that. This is a rivalry between East and West, East Coast style of football, West Coast style of football. It's old school, and it's built on respect. You're not in our conference, so we're not trying to chase you around for the Rose Bowl berth or anything like that. But a lot of the time, this means national championship implications, and it certainly does this year for Notre Dame. SC's on a little bit of a downslide. But, hey, I've been around long enough to know that sometimes SC comes here or in the Coliseum, and they're not very good, and Notre Dame is number one or one of the top teams in the country. And if funny things happen in these rivalries sometime, those are the kind of games that are really great. But anytime you come to SC Notre Dame, I'm doing this for 30 years. I still get goose pimples on my arms and the back of my neck when I come here and when I do a game in the Coliseum, because it just transposes the normal everyday game.
Pete Arbogast, the voice of the USC Trojans. The day in college football next on 16 News Now. Oh, if only Rockne and Jones could see the spectacle their pack spawned all those years ago. Their creation, now a mythical, even magical matchup. Notre Dame and USC. Just hearing those two storied squads tangled together unleashes a torrent of memory.
It's one of those rivalries that hasn't gone away.
And it's a rivalry unlike any other. One built not on shared geography, but by decades of mutual success.
Immaculate expectations.
You want to get the win. It's a big deal to us.
And a little bit of loathing.
We go on the field as
a lot of bad blood.
Tonight, the Irish and Trojans renew hostilities for a 91st time under a primetime spotlight.
Night games are always a different atmosphere.
USC will try to prove it still belongs among the game's elite.
10-5, touchdown, USC!
Notre Dame wants to keep its hopes of a playoff berth alive.
Should be a typical Notre Dame USC battle.
If that's true, we can promise you'll still be talking about this one for a long time.
It's definitely a privilege to be a part of a game like this.
And we get the privilege of getting you ready for it.
Live under the lights of Notre Dame Stadium, this is 16 News Now's Countdown to Kickoff.
An October chill has descended on the Notre Dame campus, and it sure feels like big-time college football in the air as tens of thousands of folks bundle up to brave the elements and see the greatest intersectional rivalry in all of sports.
And you are looking live at some of the fun, keeping folks warm in the tailgating lots. But now we bring you inside Notre Dame Stadium for this, the marquee matchup on the Irish home schedule. The USC Trojans come a-calling for their biennial visit.
Good evening and welcome to 16 News Now's Countdown to Kickoff. I'm Mark Skoll Jr.
And I'm WHME Sports Director Chuck Freeby, and boy, what a difference a week makes. Last week's tilt with Bowling Green didn't exactly bowl fans over. This one tonight, though, has the makings of a very fun affair.
It's going to be a lot different this week. Last week, it seemed that in the third quarter, most of the fans had already left this stadium. This week, there's already fans packed in the house. It's going to get a lot more intense, and it's a big-time game, and I'm looking forward to it, Chuck.
Yeah, last week was a game where, quite frankly, it was tough to keep your interest, even in the first quarter when the Irish had it rolling. But this is different. This is something that dates back to Rockne in 1926 and goes through all the legends of college football at both Notre Dame and USC. Man, oh man, if you don't get fired up about this one tonight, you're in the wrong place.
One of the things that makes this rivalry really special is the fact that it's been going on for so many years. This is the 91st time Notre Dame and USC have played together on the football field. And you look at it, too, there's so many other rivalries in the sport that have gone away. Texas A&M, not a thing anymore. Oklahoma, Nebraska, not a thing anymore. Notre Dame, USC is going strong, even though they're on the opposite sides of the country. What a great rivalry this is.
And here's something you better remember. When these two teams have played, 21 times the national champion has been on the field, and 11 times a team has had a potential national championship season poked away from them. This is always a big game, and the animus and vitriol that Irish fans have held for the University of Southern California over the decades can only possibly be matched by one other school, and that is the topic of tonight's Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll at WNU.com.
We're asking you, who is Notre Dame's biggest rival? Right now, 47% of you pick USC. 53% of you say the team the Irish face in 2 weeks, Michigan. There is still time to make your voice heard in the Lock Money Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNU.com, and we'll have the final results in a little more than 40 minutes. Now to the rivalry within the rivalry tonight. This game could very well come down to a battle between Notre Dame's defensive backs and Troy's very impressive wide receivers.
Brian Kelly calls them the best wide receiving core his team will see all year, and he's absolutely right. They showed us that last year at the Coliseum. There's Michael Pittman Jr. He is the big play guy that Kelly says catches everything thrown his way. Tyler Vaughn's had 120 yards, a late-game TD against the Irish last season. He creates matchup issues. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown. You remember his brother Equanimous, who played for the Irish. Well, Amon-Ra is a physical force who has all the skills we saw from EQ.
It's a daunting task to take on the three-headed monster, but the Irish DBs say they're up for it.
I love challenges. I love to, rise to the opportunity, rise to the occasion, and it's just fun, playing football. You're still playing football, so regardless of what everybody says about atmosphere, we're just lining the ball up, and we're just playing with a group of guys that loves playing football. So.
Yeah, they're obviously have a good core, good combo of those three guys. Played them last year, really good players. Have all the skills to
to get after it, get high point the ball, and run crispy routes. So people we have to keep in mind.
Now we are just getting started on this evening's edition of Countdown to Kickoff.
Up next, the Irish are slowly but surely getting all the pieces back from the injured list. We'll look at what that's done to help the offense get clicking as they get another big name back tonight.
And here is your first Subway trivia test of the evening. They got a shutout last week, and the blanking of Michigan in 2014 still jumps out. But who did the Irish beat in Brian Kelly's first shutout victory at Notre Dame? The answer when the countdown rolls back in 2 minutes.
Here is your Subway trivia answer.
Brian Kelly's first shutout victory at Notre Dame came at the expense of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. The Irish demolished Wake 38-0 on Senior Day in 2012. And that was just the beginning of a very good day. By the end of the night, the top 2 teams in the land, Kansas State and Oregon, had lost. And the undefeated Fighting Irish were number 1. During fall camp and the first week of this season, it seemed like there was a new Irish injury every week.
Well, now we keep hearing good news as those players return every week. The Countdown's Megan Smedley joins us from down the field with how the Irish on the mend are helping boost the offensive power.
Jafar Armstrong is expected to make his return today after missing the past 4 games with a torn abdominal muscle. And who knows, he could be the Trojans' kryptonite.
I don't know that we can expect him to throw on a cape and play like Superman this weekend.
It's been 40 days since Jafar Armstrong last suited up for the Irish, and what better time to return than rivalry week? Just don't expect Kelly to give Armstrong a full workload.
You can't go from not playing for 6 weeks and then have a workload of, 50 plays. If we could get 20 plays out of him, that would be terrific.
Armstrong is just the latest offensive weapon to return, helping Ian Book pack an extra punch.
Obviously it helps Ian a lot because these are the guys that Ian's worked with last year and throughout spring. So these are guys that Ian has a lot of chemistry with, and when we can get everybody on the field all at once, everyone kind of fits in their own role, and we're able to excel in the roles that we're given.
Tonight, Cole Kmet enters his 4th game back from a broken collarbone. He's already become Notre Dame's 2nd leading receiver, but he says he's still working to reach his goals.
It's a different feel when you're actually playing compared to practice, so just the more games I play, the more comfortable I get.
Add the returns of Michael Young and Jameer Smith, and the blue and gold can finally get into a rhythm.
Helps a lot to just have more and more guys coming back that are weapons for the offense, and the ball can get spread around, and defense has more guys to worry about.
And an added confidence.
Ian saw the field really well last weekend, him going through his reads and all that, and he did really well this past weekend, and definitely gives a confidence to all the receivers, tight ends, and obviously our quarterback.
And with everyone back, that confidence also spreads to the offensive line.
I think we're catching stride. I think we're starting to assert our dominance against the lines, and I think the physical nature of our offensive line is starting to show itself.
So for now, all of the offensive pieces are back together. On the defensive side of the ball, Sean Crawford began conditioning this week as he recovers from a dislocated elbow. Brian Kelly said on his radio show this week that he expects Crawford to be back to play in 2 weeks against Michigan, guys.
That would be an incredibly quick recovery from that injury. Thanks a lot, Megan. The countdown continues to roll along on this chilly October night. Up next, what does this ancient rivalry mean for Notre Dame?
Tim O'Malley answers that and gives us his key to tonight's game in the Irish Illustrated Report. And you can subscribe to Irish Illustrated, the #1 source for Notre Dame sports, online. Just head to irishillustrated.com and click on Join to find the best plan for you.
Back on the countdown with the Irish Illustrated Report, Tim O'Malley joins us. We either have to get the people at Irish Illustrated to buy him a coat, or he's just tougher than us, one or the other.
Yeah.
What does this game mean to Notre Dame?
I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're kind of born into this rivalry. This is the one that you grew up with no matter what. Now, people my age in their mid-40s, Michigan is the main rival because those games were so tight, and Notre Dame used to kill USC when I was watching. But I think every other age, it's really the Notre Dame USC game, and a lot of times, whether it's a spoiler role or the winner goes on, there's a national title or some national stakes involved.
Tim, this week on Twitter, we've been seeing all these recruits saying that they're going to be at this game tonight. What makes these programs attractive to those elite recruits?
I mean, no matter when you've turned them on, you've seen players. Every once in a while, you see great coaches as well for both sides, but no matter when you've turned these two on, you've seen players. And I think Notre Dame does a very good job now, especially the latter stage of the Brian Kelly era, of bringing in recruits, focusing on one or two big games. It was Michigan last year. And they make it a major event where Notre Dame has to get you on campus for you to fall in love with Notre Dame, because it's in the middle of nowhere if not. And for USC, I mean, obviously that's going to be attractive to anybody. I go out there every other year, and it's pretty attractive to anybody that walks out there for USC fans.
Geez, shocking. We're on the outside looking in at USC, but is there any way Clay Helton survives after this season?
I wouldn't think so, because they're going to be getting an athletic director, which they don't have right now. And they really put retaining Helton on Notre Dame, saying, hey, look, it worked for Brian Kelly. They kept Brian Kelly, and now look, they're going to the national championship game or the playoffs. I don't see how Helton makes it past the end of this year. Now, if they win tonight and go on a run, he could rewrite it, but with a new athletic director coming in, it seems unlikely.
Tim, for tonight, what is the key to victory?
Well, I think we're all talking about USC's wide receivers, and then you know about Notre Dame's defensive line and pass rush. But for me, is Notre Dame's offensive line going to be that much better than USC's front seven? If it is, Notre Dame can win by multiple touchdowns. If it's not, we're going to be in a really good game going into the fourth quarter.
So, who wins?
I have Notre Dame pulling away in the fourth quarter, somewhat like the Virginia game. I don't mean that necessarily dominant defensive effort, but I think it'll be a good close game for a while, unlike the last time these two played here and it was 49-14. But I think Notre Dame's defensive line and offensive line establishes their will in the fourth quarter.
Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated joining us on Countdown to Kickoff. A reminder, you can subscribe online to Irish Illustrated. It's the #1 source for Notre Dame sports online. Just head to irishillustrated.com and click on Join to find the best plan for you.
And up next on the Countdown, a Leprechaun's legacy. One of the most memorable men to wear the beard green suit and bowler is still firing up the Irish faithful. To catch up with Mike Brown for a story you can't miss in 2 minutes on the Countdown.
Back on the Countdown with a check on the mood outside, and the season's first cold blast sure is not stopping the Irish party in the tailgating lots.
Fans wouldn't let false frosty temps keep them from living it up before this one. They've pumped to see Notre Dame host USC in the latest battle of these age-old foes, and you can bet a lot of those folks will have this place rocking in just a few minutes. There is nothing like a mix of tradition with the unbridled joy of school spirit to get people fired up.
And the Countdown's Lindsey Stone recently spent some time with a man who knows that about as well as anybody, doesn't he, Lindsey?
You got that right, Chuck. Yeah, you and many of our viewers might remember the name Mike Brown. Not only is he one of the most energetic individuals to ever sport the leprechaun costume, but he also made history.
It feels sort of like a Superman costume.
One of the most familiar suits in all of college football.
Let's go Irish!
The Notre Dame Leprechaun has represented the spirit of the Fighting Irish for decades. Back in 1999, we introduced you to Mike Brown, Notre Dame's first African-American leprechaun.
You're known as a leprechaun essentially for the rest of your life, and it's something that it's a blessing, but it's also something that I don't take for granted.
But Mike's path to Notre Dame was full of hurdles.
Some of it's fate and destiny and just some luck.
He was offered a full ride to Marquette University, but turned it down to follow his heart to Notre Dame. But that wasn't the only twist of fate that led him to becoming a leprechaun.
I was actually going to go abroad to London and study abroad. Unfortunately, fortunately, I got rejected. or denied access to the program. I still keep that letter today because it's because of that rejection letter that I then tried out for Leprechaun.
Mike earned the coveted role and made history.
I didn't try out because I wanted to make some kind of statement. There were some people that were really questioning how this could be. The Leprechaun isn't black. How can you have a black leprechaun when the leprechaun's Irish? It's funny because it's a make-believe character in the first place, right? Who's to say what it should or should not look like or what it should or should not reflect?
We are ND! Earlier this year, Samuel Jackson followed in Mike's footsteps, becoming the second African-American leprechaun in school history.
I didn't grow up singing the fight song since I was 6 months old, right? So to be here and to just have an opportunity to have any type of impact, it just makes you reflect not just on the impact at Notre Dame, but just in life, the impact you can have on other people's lives.
People he still stops to pose with 2 decades later. Mike continues to make an impact at Notre Dame through his work in athletic advancement and emceeing the pep rallies on Friday nights.
Leprechaun Sam and your Notre Dame cheerleader!
It's part of your identity for the rest of your life, whether you admit it or claim it or not.
Until then, I'll see you on the other side of the rainbow.
Mike is still rocking that leprechaun beard from back in the day, and it's not just to pay homage to his former role. His adorable 2-year-old daughter only knows him by that beard, so he says it's gonna stick around a little longer. You guys, are we gonna see a beard like that anytime soon, Chuck and Mark?
I'm not sure that you're gonna see one on me, and for Skoll, it might take him another 23 years to grow one here. We are almost to halftime on the countdown, but there is a ton of ground still to cover. Up next, Ian Book had a game for the record books against Bowling Green.
He tells us the work that went into it, plus we look at the other QB in tonight's game, freshman Kedon Slovis, and quick hits on the countdown in 2 minutes. Joining us now on the countdown, no stranger to huge games, Irish women's basketball coach Muffet McGraw with us. Thanks for joining us tonight. How would you compare the rivalry between Notre Dame and USC to, say, the rivalry between Notre Dame and UConn on the women's basketball court?
Well, I think Notre Dame-UConn is the best rivalry in college women's basketball, and I'd say USC-Notre Dame is the #1 rivalry in football.
Very diplomatic answer.
Now, Muffet, you lost more than 80 points a game from your starting lineup last season. Is this your biggest challenge since you've taken the job at Notre Dame?
Well, when you return 4 points a game, you better work on your defense. So that's going to be the plan this year. We're going to be a great defensive team.
My spies tell me that you've got a couple of freshmen, Sam Brunell, Anea Peoples, that are worth showing up for. What do they bring to the table?
I'll tell you, our freshman class is amazing, especially with Caitlin Gilbert dropping back because of her injury last year. Those 3 are going to be the mainstays of our team. Anea Peoples really off to a great start. Really, really excited about her. Sam Brunell, she's the best shooter in the gym. And Caitlin Gilbert reminds me a little bit of a young Jackie Young.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty lofty thing to dump on a player.
Yes.
Is she ready to take that mantle?
I hope so. I mean, she had a whole year off to watch and learn, and I think she's ready.
What would you say, Muffet, is the personality of this year's team?
You know, the interesting thing about having such a young team, we keep wondering, really, who are we? What do we have? What is our strength? We know what our weaknesses are already. But who's going to get the ball late in the shot clock, late in the game? And there's some things, we're still trying to figure that out.
Now, I know you can't speak about specific recruits, but I'm sure you bring recruits to games like this. What do you hope they get from this whole atmosphere and a weekend?
Well, this is our biggest recruiting weekend. We've got our top kids on campus right now. And really, we just want them to see the atmosphere, the passion for Notre Dame of any sport. And really, it's all about the alumni. We have so many alums that come back. It's about reconnecting with your friends. It's such a special place. There's no place else like it in the world.
Okay, we know who you're going to pick. You want to give us a final score?
I've got the Irish by 12.
All right, we'll hold her to it. Muffet McGraw, the head coach of the Irish women's basketball team. Folks, head coach Clay Helton and the USC Trojans are back in the Bend for yet another visit. He and his men of Troy arrive under a cloud of uncertainty, but the Cardinal and Gold know an upset win today could get things headed back on the right track in South Central.
Brian Kelly and his blue and gold sure have no desire to help the Trojans in that mission. They have their own goals, dispatching arch rival, keeping their long home winning streak intact, and making sure the dream of a return to the college football playoff is still a possibility when the night is over. Welcome back into this evening's edition of The Countdown with WHME Sports Director Chuck Freeby. I'm Mark Skoll Jr.
Let's bring Megan and Lindsay back in and whip through some quick hits. Megan gets us started with the Irish signal caller.
Chuck, Ian Book came into this season with high expectations, but week after week, it seemed like the Irish quarterback was stuck in a rut. But last week, Book was able to put his name in the Irish history book. He became the first Irish quarterback to throw 5 touchdown passes in a single half against Bowling Green. And to top it all off, Book only threw 4 incompletions, earning him the game ball. It's been a season of pushing himself to get better every week with a focus on one thing.
Getting through all my progressions. That's really what I wanted to work on is, first, second, third reads. We have these design plays. They're going to work. I just got to get through my progression and get the ball to the guys. Going out there and practicing, challenging myself every day to go through those reads and really just trusting in my eyes. We practice it. I know what's going on. It's about, translating from practice to the games and going out there and doing it.
Book now sits at 8th place in the Irish record books with 36 career touchdowns. But Mark, it's going to be a tale of 2 quarterbacks with the Trojans suiting up a true freshman.
That's right, Megan. True freshman quarterback Kedon Slovis gets the start for Clay Helton in the Trojans tonight. Slovis was thrown into the starting role once JT Daniels went down with an ACL injury, and tonight Slovis is back in the starting lineup for the first time since September 20th when he took a big hit against Utah that put him in concussion protocol. Slovis says he's feeling good and is ready to get back out on the field.
Biggest thing is just getting my legs back and a quarterback, it seems pretty easy. You're taking a 3-step drop, but I think a big part of it is getting your feet in position to throw. And when you're not practicing for a week, I think you lose that a little bit. So I think just getting my feet back under me and getting back to where I want to be. Yeah, any chance you have to go out here and play football and throw the ball around with the guys is a lot of fun. Just being disciplined, going through the reads, not letting the last play affect what I do the next time.
Slovis has thrown 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions this season for the Trojans.
Mark Kedon Slovis should be a big part of the Trojan plans for at least 3 years. The question is, will Clay Helton still be his head coach? We touched on it earlier. Helton just barely survived last season's 5-7 record. Many thought the November loss to the Irish would be his last game, but athletic director Lynn Swan stood behind Helton. He even cited Notre Dame's patience with Brian Kelly after that miserable 2016 season as a reason to stay the course. Now Swan is gone. The interim AD, Dave Roberts, says he won't decide Helton's fate. The question is, will new president Carol Folt? The Trojans sit at 3-2. The rumor mill's spinning. Big names, including Urban Meyer, being bandied about in LA. We'll have to see if Helton survives against the odds again, especially if he can't get past a rival tonight. And Lindsay, one man who does not want to help Helton's cause, knows him pretty well.
You're absolutely right, Chuck. In last year's Notre Dame USC game, the Irish trailed 10-7 as they entered the locker room at halftime. That's when safety Alohi Gilman delivered an epic halftime speech that provided the spark for the Irish to go on and win 24-17. But Gilman was almost on the losing side of that game. When he started his college career, he was with the Naval Academy and drew attention from some of the top college football programs in the country, including Notre Dame and, you guessed it, USC. Gilman decided to transfer to Notre Dame to play for Brian Kelly and the Fighting Irish over playing for Clay Helton and the USC Trojans. And it's a decision the Notre Dame captain is proud of.
Notre Dame and USC was actually my top 2 coming out when I was transferring, and I was planning on taking an official visit after Notre Dame. I ended up not and committing here, but I think both of them presented similar things that were of interest of mine. But Notre Dame overall was a place that I felt comfortable with, a place that I was could see myself in the future, kind of matched my personality, who I was.
And Gilman says that once he made that decision to come here to Notre Dame, he never looked back. And get this, Chuck and Mark, considering that Gilman made 12 tackles against Notre Dame as a midshipman, you can bet that Notre Dame is certainly glad that they don't have to face him tonight.
That is for certain. Well, now it's time for America's favorite pregame segment, Buy or Sell, here on the Countdown. Let's get it going with a take on tonight's Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll. Mark, USC is Notre Dame's biggest rival. You buying or selling?
Totally buying it. I know in our area there's a lot of Michigan fans, and there's a Michiana rivalry between Michigan and Notre Dame, but I'm totally buying it. If you think about the history of college football, Notre Dame and USC is always discussed in the game's biggest rivalry, so I'm buying that.
I absolutely buy it. At 1926, this rivalry starts, and it has endured through world wars, through coaching changes, through regime changes. There's no doubt in my mind this is the rivalry for a Notre Dame football fan.
Now, Chuck Helton will be USC's coach next year. Buy or sell?
Oh, I'm selling that. I don't see any way that he weathers through the storm, even if he beats Notre Dame tonight, even if he wins the Pac-12 South. I just think there are so many forces aligned against him right now at USC. It's going to be really interesting to see who USC goes out and gets in as an athletic director, but I think whoever they hire will not hire Clay Helton.
I'm going to have to sell on this one as well. Whenever you hire a new athletic director, they usually want to pair themselves up with a head football coach. So I'm assuming whoever they hire as the athletic director will want a new head coach, maybe Urban Meyer.
Since Clark Lee has taken over as the Irish defensive coordinator, no opponent has scored more than 30 points. Will an opponent score 30 points this year? I say no. That's the buy or sell question.
I'm going to buy on this one. I don't think Notre Dame's going to give up 30 points in the game. It could happen tonight, could possibly happen against Michigan, but when you look at the rest of the Notre Dame schedule this season, I don't think that's happening. I'm buying it.
I don't see any way Michigan does. I think this team back here could. I think Duke could, because I think David Cutcliffe is a very good offensive coach who's underrated. But I'm buying too. I don't think any Irish foe is going to score more than 30 this year.
All right, now Chuck, Ian Book throws more than 30 touchdown passes this season. He's got 12 already. Buy or sell?
He's got 12 already, and 10 of them came against New Mexico and Bowling Green. Those should be devalued like the Canadian dollar. But I do think you look at the rest of the opponents, you look at what Chip Long wants to do on offense, I think he's going to get there. I'll buy that one.
I'm going to buy it as well. This is the first day Ian Book has all of his weapons on offense this season. I'm going to buy that. I think he gets over 30 touchdown passes this season.
All right, the countdown continues to steam along on this chilly night. Up next, the coach's kid.
I'll introduce you to Kenzel Kelly and hear about his interest in the family business. And here's another Subway trivia test. Before this year, when was the last time Notre Dame scored at least 50 points twice in a season? The answer when the countdown returns in 2 minutes.
Here is your Subway trivia answer.
Before this year, the last time Notre Dame scored at least 50 points twice in a season was 2011. The Irish outslugged Air Force 59-33 here in the stadium before hanging 56 on Navy 3 weeks later, also at home, avenging a loss to the Middies the previous season.
Brian Kelly's now in his 10th season at Notre Dame. He's had his family by his side at each step. We've all gotten to know his wife, Pocky, through the Kelly Cares Foundation.
Tonight we introduce you to their youngest son, who, to no one's surprise, has football in his genes.
Welcome you as the new leader of our football program at the University of Notre Dame.
Since day one in the shadow of the Golden Dome, Brian Kelly has been all about football and family.
That's what is so magical about this, and that my kids know that this was a dream for me.
Bring them out! Bring them out! And for Kelly's youngest, Kenzel, a senior football player at St. Joe, just a couple of miles from that dome, football is all he dreams about.
I love football. I just, when it's non-football season, it's like the longest time of the year.
It's hard for Kenzel not to love the game, growing up on the sidelines at Notre Dame Stadium next to his dad.
He's such a big role model to me. There's always time to be better, and if anyone has ever showed me that you should never get complacent, it's him.
Now Kenzel wants to follow in his dad's footsteps and become a football coach.
If I do love it, which I think I do, I think I'll give it a try.
His dad has other ideas.
Oh, I do not want him to be a coach someday. I can tell you that.
And he doesn't want everyone to think just because of what he does, that's what I want to do. He wants me to, like I said, keep my options open. And in all honesty, it's kind of runs in the family.
And Kenzel wants to be a part of the family business. There you go, boys.
I just like teaching. You know, I like helping. The best thing in the world is just when you see a kid who started out so rough and you work with him each day, and then at the end of the season he's a finished product. I feel like that is just so invaluable, and I really like doing that.
One thing invaluable for his dad is finding time for his son.
It's trying to make the time that you have quality time. And so doing things like that that are impactful, senior nights, things of that nature is what's most important. That's what you try to do as a father, is to make those moments impactful when you get the opportunity.
Kenzel says he only heard stories about his dad's playing days at Assumption College, but he's told he plays exactly like Dad, undersized but always threw his body around.
Well, Brian's college buddies do say he always had the bruises to prove it.
Now coming up next on the countdown, what does this game mean for the California kid, Irish quarterback Ian Book?
Darren Pritchett gives us his answer, plus how he's voting in our fan poll on who is Notre Dame's biggest rival. It's Sports Beat on the countdown when we return in 2 minutes. Back with Sports Beat on the countdown, the host of Weekday and Game Day Sports Beat on WSBT Radio, Darren Pritchett joins us again. Let's start you with our fan poll. Who is Notre Dame's biggest rival, USC or Michigan, and why?
Chuck, I'd have to say USC because they play every year.
Right.
I mean, Michigan is more of that regional matchup, which is a lot of fun, and it may be a while before we see it again. But USC is every year the greatest intersectional rivalry, the history. I got to go with Notre Dame USC.
Thank you for being correct.
I'm right this week. Good.
Darren, is the USC program and the mystique diminished in any way because of the turmoil they've faced over the last 6 seasons?
I don't think so, because all the major programs are going through hiccups. This generation, this new generation, doesn't know Alabama wasn't very good for a while in the 90s. Notre Dame's had some down times. You go through all the major programs, there are hiccups. Hey, USC was the best program in the decade of the 2000s, right? They were the best, so they're going through one of those spells right now. If they get the right coach, I'm sure they'll be right back as a national championship contender just because of who they are and who they've been.
I'm asking you to speculate here, which I know you love about as much as when my wife asked me a hypothetical. We were not given a chance to talk to Ian Book this week, but he's a California kid. What do you think this game means to him?
Boy, I would have to think it means a lot to him, whether he liked USC or did not like USC. It's the premier program in the state he grew up in. So I would have to say this is a big-time game for him. I honestly don't know if he was recruited by USC.
Right.
I really don't know, but as a California kid, I'm sure you'd like to have USC taking a look at you. So this has to be a very important game for him. And you know what? He's got a lot of big things to accomplish individually and team-wise. This is just, I guess, another team in the way of achieving those goals.
Darren, what is your prediction for tonight?
You know, I think the Irish are going to win a little easier than most. I think the quarterback Slovis is going to be under siege tonight. They like to throw it deep. You need protection, so I think the defensive ends will have a good day for Notre Dame. I think Book will be solid. I just can't wait to see Jafar Armstrong, what he can add to this offense. So I'm taking Brian Kelly's crew 33-16.
Okay, 17-point win. That's Darren Pritchett from Weekday and Game Day Sports Beat on WSBT.
Now it's the fourth quarter of the countdown, but there's still plenty to bring you before the 91st meeting of the Irish and the Trojans.
It is a rivalry unlike any other. I look at what has made this game so special over the decades when the countdown returns in 2 minutes. Here are the final results of this week's Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNU.com.
We asked you, who is Notre Dame's biggest rival? 47% of you say it's tonight's foe, USC. The other 53% of you say it's the team the Irish play in 2 weeks, Michigan. Thank you for voting in the Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNDU.com. Of course, you and I already discussed this in Buy or Sell, and you made your opinion very, very clear.
Well, maybe it is a generational thing, Mark. Notre Dame went 35 years without playing Michigan. But every year, you knew USC was on the schedule. And that's why, let me lower my voice here.
The greatest college rivalry of all is Notre Dame versus the University of Southern California.
After Knute Rockne recommended USC hire Howard Jones as football coach, Jones returned the favor by starting a home-and-home with the Irish in 1926, and the game was on.
It's one of those rivalries that hasn't gone away, and it's part of college football.
Even today's players, for whom history is what happened just last year, get caught up in it.
It's very special. I mean, you think about the tradition, you think about so many amazing games they've played, so many amazing players.
These two schools have combined for 13 Heisman Trophy winners and 80 college football Hall of Famers. The litany of names is like college football royalty. Lujack, Simpson, Davis, Montana, Brown, and Bush.
There's a history between us and them. They have good players, but we also have good players, so it's nice to get after some good talent.
But what makes this rivalry is more than just the talent. It's legendary coaches like McKay, Parsegian, Holtz, and Carroll. And it's everything around the game.
The atmosphere is going to be crazy. Their game days are insane. Went to a ton of them. I can't even count how many. And the fans are crazy. It's going to be a great atmosphere.
This game just oozes college football tradition. It's fight on and cheer cheer. It's Tommy Trojan and the Leprechaun. It's Song Girls and the Irish Guard. It's Conquest and the Alma Mater. It's Traveler and a Trojan Horse. Notre Dame USC pits Midwestern puffy-chestedness.
You can tell, people get after it. A lot of talking, a lot of, different ways of competitive nature. But it's fun and, you look forward to it.
Against West Coast swagger.
I told them to embrace this
sacred honor.
And now the University of Notre Dame Marching Band gets ready to play our national anthem before this capacity crowd at Notre Dame Stadium. The colors tonight presented by Kathy and John Brennan. John, the chair of Notre Dame's Board of Trustees. And we're expecting a flyover tonight from two U.S. Air Force C-130 Hercules aircraft. So now, here is our national anthem.
Director of the Trojan Marching Band.
just cruising over our heads. Those two U.S. Air Force C-130 Hercules aircraft from the 61st Airlift Squadron based in Little Rock. Next, it's our Irish keys to the game, X Factors and score predictions. The Four Winds Casino, what to watch for in 2 minutes on the countdown. The energy and excitement building in Notre Dame Stadium. Megan rejoins us for the Four Winds Casino, what to watch for. We start with the keys to the game, Mark.
My key to the game is you've got to play the game like it's not a rivalry game. Brian Kelly says all the time you play a nameless, faceless opponent every week. You got to play like that tonight, Megan.
My keys, you got to run the dang ball. It's cold, it's windy, both things don't well bode for receivers. Chuck.
This game likes West End Bakery. They make a lot of turnovers. The team that does that tonight loses. Okay, X Factors, who you got?
I'm going with Chris Fink. He's definitely disappointed in his season so far, but last year against USC, he had a career-high 7 receptions. He's going to have a big game today. Megan?
I got to go with the freshman Kyle Hamilton, 6'3". He should have a big game against those tough Trojan receivers. Chuck.
That's not a bad pick, but I'm going with the Irish corners. They're going to get worked over so much those corners are going to be round by the end of the night, but they got to be ready to be worked on. We'll see how they do. Prediction time.
Notre Dame's going to win big tonight, 35-10 Irish.
Also going big win, 31-14 Irish.
I think they cover, but not quite that big. 31-17 Irish. Stick around because NBC has full coverage of the Irish and the Trojans next. And then Mark and I are back here right after the game with highlights and reaction on 16 News Now. We give it over to Mike Tirico and Doug Flutie. It's Notre Dame and USC.